No big.
At what time did
feel
Seth
like
come to
pie.
you about Tony trying to
Shoot
push him
the
off as a
shot.
PR for all of y'all?
I'm coming in hot. Coming in
At what time did Seth come to you about Tony trying to push him off as a PR for all of y'all? And do you know how long he had been in communication with Tony before he came to you?
Yeah. So I don't know the exact date, but it was early on. April stands out for some reason, but I think it could have been March. But so keep in mind the saying is, or the saying was, I don't know how much truth there is to it now, but Pascal was the one that got Tony in touch with Seth. I've heard it.
Yeah, that's
Pascal
been
said he had
verified.
nothing to do with it, but
Bullshit. It's been verified. It even came directly out of Tony's mouth. Yeah, Pascal put me in touch with Seth. And I guessed that early on because Pascal was like to Seth, "Oh, I got somebody you should talk with, and I got a guy to hook you up with." And next thing you know, those two came on the scenes together. So yeah, absolutely, it was Pascal.
so that, however, that transcended. Seth had been in contact with Tony long before he had talked to us about Tony. He had talked to Katie, directly to Katie at that time, about hiring a dog handler and having Tony as a PR person. He didn't come to me directly. He went to Katie directly.
And
And
by
then
dog
after that,
handler,
Hold on, I don't finish.
after that, Katie said, she told me about it, and I said, "Will you tell him to email you the information?" He emails me the information. He didn't send it to Katie. He sent it to me. So I looked it over, and I made phone calls. I'm not going to hire people just because you want me to hire somebody. I'm going to do my homework. And I started digging into the canine handler, Captain Valente, Jules, whatever people want to call her. Looked into her. I talked to TBI about her. I looked into the background on Tony and gave everybody their due diligence, and I listened to them. Katie and I had a conversation with Tony, and this was early in the investigation. After what we heard, we decided, no, not going to be a good fit for us.
Mm-hmm.
Tony originally said he wasn't going to do it unless all three parents were on board. Come to find out, Tony and Seth had an agreement well before that. Now, whether or not they will admit to it, that's their own personal choices. That's not here or there.
Let's
hold on, let him finish. Let him finish, please.
listen. Honest to God, guys, we got to stop with the interrupting. Okay, he's not. I get it. You're excited to say what you have to say, but if he's unable to finish, then we don't even know where he's headed. And quite frankly, we don't even understand what you're interrupting for.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I get it. It's exciting. I get it. You know what I mean? I get when you want to say something, but he's like literally in the middle, recapping something very important.
So when all this transpired, we heard information about Tony, about some other things prior to him. He had told us some very personal information about the Caleb Harris case.
Mm-hmm.
And when he told us that, after we got off the phone, Katie and I looked at each other and said, if that son of a bitch was allowing for him to tell us that information about that case, who's to say what he's going to tell other people about Sebastian's case? And at that point in time, we said, no, that will not happen.
And that's very important that people understand that. The way of Tony saying, hey, you can trust me is I never put this stuff public about Caleb. So go ahead and trust me when it comes to Sebastian. And meanwhile, he literally gave out footage of that young man. Oh.
Sickening.
He is sick.
Thank you so much, Chris, for answering that question. And I apologize for interrupting. I wasn't sure which dog handler you were talking about was what I was asking. I apologize for that. And thank you for answering that question.
So here's a question. Were you aware of Tony's like his associates like Nina Glass and kind of the, did you get into all of that, or just him in that conversation was enough to be like, yeah, I want no involvement with this guy?
No. So during the conversation, Tony did say he had some connections to some investigative teams that he had helped use during the Caleb Harris case. Now, he did refer to Nina Glass. He did not give her name directly, but he did refer to her. So that's why we were able to start putting pieces of the puzzle together. And the more we looked into things, the more we had talked to some people, it was like, absolutely not.
I mean, what a selling point, right? Like, hey, you want me to be your spokesperson? I just protected the last kid by keeping X, Y, and Z private. I mean, that's not a very good, con artist, in my opinion. Like, that's pretty obvious, and good for you for picking up on it, especially, when he does this shit, right? He does this to people that are in emotional states of mind. So had you not been thinking clearly and agreed, you know what I'm saying? It's so easy for someone like him to take advantage of people.
I mean, one of the things that Katie and I have learned, and I hope Seth has learned this too, in any situation, and this goes for anybody out there that may ever experience something so traumatic, it doesn't matter what it may be. When there's people that start coming out of the woodwork who say, hey, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, my recommendation, do not take them for their word. You can say, I'll consider it, but look into them. If you need a spokesperson, go hire a lawyer. I mean, as crazy as it
Amen.
sounds, hire a lawyer. They know the law. They know what they can say, they can't say. And law enforcement is probably a lot more receptive to a lawyer and working with them because they know what they can and cannot say. They know what they can and cannot do.
Yep, they're not going to mess with someone like Tony. And the Petitos are a really good example. Whenever they gave a press conference or any kind of announcement when Gabby was still missing, their lawyer did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how you know that he's not a spokesperson, because the spokesperson's not supposed to ever take the light off of the main character, which would be Seth. And instead, they got this weird duo relationship going on that makes Tony. I don't even want to go that far. I will say this: Tony's behaviors during this case will follow him for years to come. So all these characters that thought they were going to, use Sebastian's name to ride their way into like this position, I'm so glad you all did all the missteps you took, because now every family to come will know exactly who and what you all really are, and nobody will fall for your shenanigans again.
And here's a public service announcement for everybody out there. If you don't think people who have experienced trauma or victims don't talk to potentially future victims when something happens to them, you don't think people don't put each other in touch with each other, you're nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Just
Because
like
those
passed out.
families are going to explain to them exactly everything that has happened to them, who said what's said to anything, who's done this, who's done that, who they recommend, who they don't recommend. That's a little keynote that I don't care who you are and what your role is in this world. Word of mouth travels, and that's very important.
Yep, that's why hashtags are important too.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
not going to happen
Yep.
again. Hashtag.
And that's
And
why
just-
Steph does all his dirty work on other channels. That drives me nuts too, because then he goes back to his channel and he plays this character, and it's so obvious what it is. They both do, him and Tony.
Well, those two might want to kind of slow their roll for a while. I'm sure they're going to be
Mhm.
quite busy for a while.
I agree. I think everybody has a moment, and everybody's time comes, and I think people want quick answers, and not realizing that it's not always a quick solution.
I think it's very telling too of those. Call them green team, call them whatever, and whoever you want to. But I think that's also very telling with what Chris said, that this, it came to mind for him April, but maybe even as far back as March. And then take that information and think about the interviews and stuff that Chris would be given on these panels, and automatically Seth show up or something like that, and it gets sabotaged and then intentionally trigger Chris. In my opinion, I'm sorry if I'm speaking.
Well, they
not wrong.
attempted. Keep in mind,
Right.
I lost my shit on Clue Show. And once again, I apologize, but it was 15 months when I finally snapped.
Right.
Well, I know it was round about beginning of March when Tacky Tony deleted all the videos and photos on Caleb's page and made it Sebastian's page. So I reckon it was round about that time, beginning of March.
I'm not sure exactly when. My condolences go out to the Harris family and everything they've had to go through, and the Wells and many other cases.
Mhm.
But, I publicly will say this. I wouldn't recommend Tony Mathis to tie his own damn shoes. Period.
Well, I know that Tacky Tony still had a GoFundMe for Caleb right up until 3 months ago.
Mm.
It's
Up it-
dodgy.
Up until 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Mm.
What do you mean up till 3 months ago?
She's saying that the GoFundMe was still up and running until about 3 months ago.
Well, for the Caleb Harris family?
I
Yeah.
guess, and Tony being the benefit, the creator of
Oh,
it.
yeah. He was the beneficiary of the GoFundMe as well.
Well, I mean, all they have to do is file a complaint with GoFundMe, and they can handle that on a legal aspect.
Yeah, if it's true.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't think raising any funds on the back of any trauma deal where you're a victim is actually okay. Now, like if you need help with like medical bills, fine. I understand that because it's very costly. However, you don't want to have any involvement, period, with as the victims. Like you, that should be something so distant that has nothing to you. It really shouldn't. You know, and I don't think families should know anything about it if that's something that, you know, somebody wants to draw up a collection for something, whatever. I'll tell you right now, one of the best things that we experienced locally was the food train. I mean, our neighbors are amazing. We've had friends and family that literally would come over and they would bring food. Because when you're involved in things like this, you don't think about eating. You don't think about the day-to-day things. You have to be reminded you've got to eat. You know, you've got to sleep.
Right.
You know, as crazy as it sounds, you got to be reminded every once in a while. Hey, look, go change your clothes. You've been in those clothes like 2 days now. Go change your clothes because your mind is constantly racing, and everything that you take for granted on a day-to-day basis, you don't think about. You really don't.
Couldn't
You know,
fathom.
that I'm gonna tell you now. Communities across the country, wherever they are, that do these food trains are amazing, absolutely amazing.
What do you think the impact of social media does? Like from your perspective, having to have experienced this firsthand, do you find that social media has been, and I know you'll have like a really good answer, probably of both. Do you feel it's been more beneficial to Sebastian's case or more harmful?
Unfortunately, I think it's been a lot more harmful to Sebastian's case than I would say helpful. Um,
Yeah.
only because of how much detriment that was put on in the investigation with the investigators, the detectives, and all these entities out there that had to pull so many assets away to go deal with nonsense, frivolous crap, you know, that didn't need to be. Well, we saw Chris's truck in Arkansas. We saw it at a speedway. We saw blah blah blah. And what do? They have to take an asset away and go investigate it. They have to, you know. But a lot of those tips were called in because of social media. Now, it is a 50-50 split. There's been some great things about social media, i.e., the young man who was found up there at North Carolina Tennessee border at the mountain. That was a really good close lookalike. The young man that was found out in California. Um, I mean, and there were some other places, but it was all spread through social media because of the awareness of his case. So I think there is some positives. I think the negatives, if those could be curtailed, as in getting rid of, stop trying to point fingers and push blame automatically, and just stick to the facts of what you know. Um, I think social media would be super, super amazing. It is a known fact most people don't get their news anymore from television; they get it all from social media. So, you know, that's kind of where I stand with that. You know, it took some creators to teach me that because I still thought everybody would get it from the news. You know, but you know, Clue and Cletus have told me, and they're like, look, here's statistics, here's this. You know, look how many people follow this person and that person, and you know, and the rest of you creators out there, you have done amazing jobs. I mean, I'm not going to knock you for the negative or the positive. I think it's been amazing across the board because it allows open perspective. You know, for people to see it from different angles. I welcome that. I just don't welcome the stupidity of a few that decide that coming to my hometown and doing some stupid things is smart. I think it's very immature, irresponsible, um, and quite honestly, very dangerous because you don't know who you're dealing with.
I think that's the scariest part is you just don't know. And I tried explaining this to people. You don't know who is who, and you don't know who's watching, and you don't know who's going to believe what you're saying and take matters into their own hands. It's um it's a really scary place. They came to social media to give out information about Sebastian. They didn't come out to bash Seth or to build a team or to do anything as far as public perception goes. It was very focus based. It was strictly
Yep.
Sebastian. We saw that turnabout come when Tony came, in my opinion. And I'll never forget when Tony said, gloves are off, referring to you guys. And I feel like that is when everything completely became what it is now, which is an embarrassment.